In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how we can rename or move files. Now, as we're working with our code, there may come times when we need to move our files around or simply change the name. And we want to make sure that as we do this, we aren't going to cause problems for the rest of our code. So there are, of course, many different ways that we can go about performing these operations, and I'd like to take a look at a few of them right now. If we don't have any code open in any code editor, we won't see the refactor menu. So we'll note that that isn't here right now. But if we wanted to rename something, we could simply select the file and hit the F2 key, which brings up this Rename Compilation Unit dialog, which allows us to give this class a new name, and we can note that there is a check mark for updating references or update similarly named variables and methods. We can also check for updating textual occurrences and fully qualified names in non-Java text files, and it does give a preview when you do those. You can also configure to see what's going on. You can say, I want to find exact names only, finding embedded names, or even suffixes. So most of the time we'd probably be looking for exact names only. We don't really care too much about variable names as long as they reference the correct type. So the correct type is what we're going to update. So if we change pair to my pair or something similar, we can see that we can go ahead and do that. And if we hit next, it'll look through, find the matches, creating what it's going to change, and then we can see this dialog here of what would be changed. And we can go ahead and review all the different places in code where that would be changed. You could hit finish to perform the change. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to hit cancel. Another thing you can do is right-click directly on the file, and underneath refactor here, you can see rename and move as well. Now both of those have shortcuts as well. If you hit Alt-Shift-T and then follow that with Alt-Shift-R or Alt-Shift-V, you can rename or move. Now ultimately, if you hit Alt-Shift-R, you can rename it without having to hit Alt-Shift-T. So let's just go ahead and do that, Alt-Shift-R. When we're working on the Macintosh, Alt is Option, so Option-Shift-R or Alt-Shift-R on the other machines. And we'll see that as we hit that, it does bring up the same Rename Compilation Unit, once again having the same options as before. Now, if I have the code open in an editor, or any code, it doesn't necessarily have to be the one I'm trying to rename. We'll note now that a refactor menu has appeared at the top. Underneath refactor, we also have rename and move. So we're able to easily move files around or rename them. We have to have the class name that we want to rename selected, and it says enter new name, press enter to refactor, or we can bring up the dialog, open the rename dialog here as well. So that covers renaming. If we want to move a file, we can simply select the file we'd like to move. For example, let's move encrypt options into our base program. Now we could just drag and drop this over here. Once we do that, it brings up the move dialog and again gives us the option to make sure we update our references. And if we have any fully qualified names in the other files, we can do that as well, look for patterns, etc. If we want to preview this, we can see what's going to happen. Again, it'll tell us exactly what code is going to be modified and where, and you can scroll through to see how some of that might be changed. And then, of course, you could select OK to make that happen there, or you could have selected OK here. Now, of course, I'm not going to move it, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel it. But if we wanted to move this as well, once again, we could right-click and select Refactor, Move, or we could hit Alt-Shift-V. And then, of course, when we do this, it brings up a dialog, where would you like to move it to? Well, if we'd like to move it into program, we would select that package. If we want to put it in the default package, we could do that. The GUI package, we could do that. In any of the other levels, we could do that. Again, we still have the same options to update references and update fully qualified names and provide a preview. We can also create a package if we'd like to move it to a brand new package that isn't listed. Once again, hitting preview will just show the changes. OK actually makes them happen. I'm going to cancel. So finally, for moving, then Alt-Shift and V, or Option-Shift-V on the Mac, once again gives us that same move dialog of where we'd like to move it to. So that wraps up our look at renaming and moving files.